I'm Patrick.
And we have a lot to go over.
Man.
What are you seeing right now?
Nah, just the numbers are just going up. Like, this is some of the highest numbers in pending home prices since September.
Yeah. We've had a lot more activity. And why do you think that is?
People are just getting okay with the interest rates, and they're not really going all over the place right now. They're stabilizing a little bit. They're sitting at where they're at. People are coming to terms with it, and they're just like, okay. This is the normal now.
And unfortunately, that kind of is the truth. And it happens with everything. It happens anytime our price inflates. Groceries, gas, we get to a point where we're like, this sucks. And then it happens for a while, and we're just like, I guess this is normal now. But right now, the average let's get into like, what is the cost to be in a home right now? As it sits today, with average price point still in Delaware being right around $320 to $325, and our interest rate being right in the mid-sixes, it means the average mortgage payment right now for a Delaware resident is going to be in between the $2,300 to $2,500 range. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world.
It's not the best thing in the world either.
It's the end of like less than $1,000 mortgage, unless like you're putting a significant amount of money down and taking out a very small mortgage loan.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people right now that'll look at the interest rates we're at, mid 6.5, and they're going to say, we've had higher interest rates before. We've done this before. What are you saying to those people?
Home prices are still way higher than they were when interest rates were a lot higher. Like if you look back in like 1981, I watched a news article where they were just like, the interest rates came down from 17% today. And I was just like, what?
Yeah, but 17%. Okay. So 17% is like the max it ever hit. It was like the high teens. It did sit in like the 12 to 14% range, which is where people are like, in the 80s, we had a 14%. Okay, but the home was worth $80,000.
Yes.
It's a big difference. Even when rates were in the 6s and 7s throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, and that's where people would be like, that's average is the high 5s, mid 6s. Price points were so much different.
Yes.
So much different. Today, in some states, the average price point is $400,000, $500,000, even $600,000. Could you imagine having a first-time home buyer walk in and, hey, your first payment's $3,500 a month?
Yeah, no, like when we're speaking to our friends over in like Washington State, like near the Seattle area and all that stuff, like Vena and Kennan and all that stuff, they're just like, in order for me to get a first-time home, it's like $500,000, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, the market's different. And Delaware specifically has its own niche in the fact that we have so much pressure from outside buyers.
That's where the competition comes from.
Outside demand is really where we're getting a ton of the competition from. Like you said, cash. We're getting conventional loans coming down for people who are retiring and have so much money to put down. They're putting 50, 60% down, so they're really not affected as much by interest rates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, what are you saying to someone who's like, okay, I can afford $2,400 a month, $2,500 a month. I might be paying that in rent right now. What do I do, and should I look into this market to buy a home?
Well, you just got to ask yourself, is this a situation that's going to work for me? If you're coming up from like $1,000 rental payment and $2,500 is like your next
stay in your
step.
$1,000 rental if that's the case.
Well, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
But when push comes to shove and you have to upgrade your home due to family size, due to not being able to handle yourself inside a one-bedroom apartment, which the $1,000 price range is, and you need to expand and you want to have your own lot of land, that's a big jump. An extra $1,500 a month coming out of your pocket 12 times a year, huge.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure that the numbers are going to work for you, and it's something that you can easily afford, and you're not going to be able to get a loan unless that's the case.
And it's interesting right now, we have a lot of the week-over-week data. It seems like a lot of inventory issues are continuing.
Yeah.
We're not seeing the large increase in housing like we typically see in a spring market, where typically we'll see 40, 50, 60 homes hitting the market every 24 to 48 hours. We're hardly seeing anywhere between maybe 800, 900 homes hitting the market, and they're getting snapped right up. And that's the entire state of Delaware.
And that's if it's habitable and priced correctly.
Absolutely. Because look at this. This is a crazy number. So out of 100, this is a ratio. So out of every 100 listings that are on the market, there's 108 homes that are pending.
Yeah.
I'll say that again. For every 100 homes on the market, there's 108 that went pending.
So our numbers are dwindling.
So it means over the last week, the pacing, yes, exactly. The pacing is dwindling away that inventory fast.
Yes.
I mean, 100 listings, 108 pending means we're not getting new listings and people are still buying. So if people continue to buy at this pace and we run out of inventory, what's going to happen?
Demand is going to be insane.
Demand already is insane, but if we lose the supply, what happens in that scenario? I mean, I think a lot of people are afraid of banks right now. I think they're afraid banks are going to lose their money. I think a lot of people are looking at BRICS, the formation of, Saudi Arabia, Russia, China, Iran, all these different places saying screw the dollar bill.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are fearing hyperinflation in the market. So combined with low inventory, do you think the Fed's really going to step on the pedal and say, screw the market, we got to crash this thing in order to get it back to where it needs to be?
Well, how are they going to crash it aside from doubling interest rates?
By doubling interest rates. I mean, not by doubling it, but you put yourself in a spot where you could basically collapse the millennial Gen Z buyer by keeping interest rates where they're at. There are so many people who cannot afford 6, 7, 8, 9% mortgages. And if it remains that way with home prices not falling, by the way, let me go through the home price median. Let me go month over month from Delaware, and we'll start when things went wild. Let's start, I say when things went wild. Let's start this past January. January 2022, average home being listed 339, or actually I'll be sold, 332. Then it was 329, 325, 351, 351, 365, 353, 360, 356, 348, 355, 349, 355, 350, 350.
Kind of just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's just exactly. It's just kind of, it's all stabilizing right here in the last year and a half in this mid to low 300s.
But to answer your question again, if the inventory drops and it dwindles away and we don't have houses and people still need to buy, that will only give a reason for inflation to continue to cause the demand to be insane, and the home prices, the value of homes are just going to go up.
You think?
Unless we do something to stop it.
What can we do to provide more inventory?
Provide more inventory?
Well, yeah, I mean, what can we do to provide more inventory? What are some options? Because we're in a situation where I feel personally, not to be doomsday-ish at all, but I feel personally, unless there is another option, like a significant new option. I'm not talking about when they dropped a little bit off of PMI.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there needs to be a new option for home ownership.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily need to be cheaper, but like, for example, I know a lot of people that would buy a super cozy, super efficient, brand new tiny home that's 600 square feet on a little quarter acre so they still have their room for their dog for $185 like that. They would have no issue with that. And you could pop up a whole neighborhood of 250 of those in half the time it takes to do a normal neighborhood.
But what do you do with a family of 5?
The family of 5, stop having kids. Stop having so many kids. If you have the family of 5 or 6, most likely you're past the first-time homebuyer stage. And if you're not, that stinks for sure. The people who already own a home and the people who don't own a home are just so far apart right now.
Yeah.
And the people who don't own a home already need that option. That's who that option needs to be for. And here's how I think you solve it. You get all the people who can't own a home or don't own a home already. You get all the people who are in this pool of, I can't afford a $350,000 house and a $200 or $2,500 mortgage payment, and you provide another option.
Yeah.
3D printing is becoming huge. Why can't we? Dan O'Neill, our good friend Dan O'Neill up in New York, just sold the largest 3D printed home to date.
Yeah.
It wasn't huge; it was a ranch home. But why couldn't we 3D print like a bunch of 600 square foot homes?
Yeah.
They sell at 170 to 185. You get your land, you get your home, you build your equity, you own a home. You're not subject to a landlord; it's your property. And I think people would rock with it. Why do we need a 4,000 square foot home? I think the Gen Z millennial demographic has shifted from that mindset.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you look at situations where people are like living in like inner city New York, like they have.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
they make those homes work. They get every inch of that square footage and they utilize it.
All 450 square feet of their studio apartment for $4,000 a month.
Yeah,
and not to say Delaware is going to be that, but we're in need of inventory. We're in desperate need of inventory. While cities like Boise, Idaho, Miami, you look over across the country, over in places even in California, Phoenix, Austin, Texas, all have the opposite problem.
Yeah.
They need more buyers. So this is very micro. You may be hearing this like, Zach, we're not seeing that problem here. And you may not be. In Delaware, though, we need inventory. And and we see, like, for example, the first month in 6 months, by the way, that we had over 1,000 homes go under contract throughout the entire state.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But the other thing that I see is we didn't see a large increase in inventory. So, yeah, that's great that we got more under contract and more people are buying and selling homes. But if we don't see a surplus in homes available, how long can that last?
But at the end of the day, something that you've spoken on previously in other lives, there needs to be a program that's set aside just for the first-time home buyer that allows them to borrow money cheaper.
Absolutely.
Because you get all these tiny home neighborhoods set up. What's stopping from the big bank or the big banks, the big corporations?
I thought you were about to say, what stops the Big Bang from happening?
What stops the big corporations from going and buying all that out and leasing out the property?
To your point, we can fix the housing market right now with these 3 options. Number 1, we have a federal level interest rate drop for first-time home buyers. So 2% off from the federal level so that banks and lenders can still get their money. And so profitable, they'll still give out the loans and not like hide the product, because if they're not making any money, they'll hide the product. You get it from the federal level. First-time home buyers, they get the opportunity. Second, corporations. Canada's already doing this. Corporations should not be able to buy a home that's fresh on the market.
Yeah.
They do, I think, 30 days, maybe it's 60. We should have 90. Like, there should be an opportunity where investors, corporations, companies can't buy the property. And that would allow people, for ones with 5 people in their home, 6 people in their, to have the opportunity to be able to buy a home. And then the last one, let's get a program in here of a rent match. If you can prove you supported a rental payment of $2,800 a month, $2,500 a month, you should not be able to walk into a lender and have that lender tell you no, because you already have the proof you can do it. Yeah. Screw PMI, screw your profit versus, what am I even saying? Income versus debt to income ratio. Geez, there's so many different ratios that are thrown around. Screw how much you make versus how much you have to pay. Screw whatever other metric goes along with it. If you can prove I've lived here, I've paid on time for a sufficient period of time, that to me should be the green light for a bank to say, okay, you should be able to get a pre-approval. And I say if we do one of those 3 things, it unlocks the first-time home buyer to have more of an opportunity.
Yep. So, Zach gave you the answers. Government, fix it.
Biden, we're looking at you. It would take a lot for any of those to actually happen, unfortunately.
Well, looks like we kind of went over the numbers and everything.
Yeah. So numbers-wise, we are still seeing very similar trends. We're seeing homes on and off the market when priced properly. We're seeing an average mortgage payment that sits in those low to mid 2,000s. And we're seeing an increased amount of competition in Newcastle County, where when I say homes aren't on the market very long, it's even shorter up in Newcastle. Kent and Sussex have a slighter advantage for the buyer, as homes are sitting a tad bit longer, but not much. A lot of homes are still selling before they even hit the market when priced properly. Any last takes to give?
Absolutely. I feel like now times are tough, but now's a really good time to get yourself educated in a situation that could benefit yourself later on. So,
and how could we get ourselves prepared?
Just having a conversation with people that work in the industry, somebody that you trust, somebody that you know. We would love it for it to be us, but it doesn't have to be. Just have a conversation with a local realtor. They're going to really they should have a decent understanding of what's going on in your specific territorial market, and then just go from there.
Yeah, and the 4 main things I always say: aim to have a nest egg of $10,000 saved up. Go for a 640, 680 credit score. Make sure you've been at your job for more than a year consistently, or at least a similar job for a year consistently. And please, 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 please make a little bit of money. You don't want to be house poor. I really suggest, if you're not making more than $48K a month, to not even begin looking at it.
$48K a month.
$48K a month. $48K a year. Yeah, $48K a year. Don't even start looking unless you're making $48K a month. If you're making $48K a month, you'll be fine. $48K a year should be a good barometer. But yeah, my name's Zachary Foust.
I'm Patrick.
And this is our weekly installment of How Cool Housing Is, and we're going to talk about it every single month. And this next coming week, we're going to be live on TikTok with our special little live formats. That'll be awesome.
That'll be dope.
It'll be super dope. Have a great day. Appreciate you. Have an awesome Easter week.